party area on the square. You can literally take 10 steps and be at one of the major schools
Target,
on campus.
HEB.
So it's we just go off ratios.
If you include the parking in the lease of the property, then they would probably use the parking space.
Potentially. I mean,
these were built pre-code, right? Right, pre the new LDC. Is that correct? Under lower standards for parking. In other words, the random sample that you guys are collecting were all pre the new LDC.
I don't believe anything has been built post LDC.
Okay, so these are
No
all
student
under
housing.
a lower threshold, right?
They all have parked less, but the majority of them are not completely parked. They're like parked 0.67, 0.7.
Okay, so we all
Instead of
participated in the
1.10.
land development code, and we all had concerns about parking.
Sure.
We all participated. Allegedly, those concerns were alleviated, and you're using that as your control group to do your analysis of your data?
So what we're reviewing is what's happening and whether they
That's
are
not my
fully-
question,
I
Shannon.
understand, but what
You guys are
Yes,
using
ma'am.
faulty data. You're using pre-code data requirements, and you're trying to say that's the exemplar control group.
I think what we're trying to say is that the majority of those lots are parked way less than what we're proposing to park, and they're not fully leased and fully parked. And so what we're saying is that, yes, we have a code that I don't know, and don't quote me on that because I'm not positive, but I can't think of anything that's been built after the code has been adopted. I don't know that we've had any CUPs for student housing. That we've had some that have been built that I'm sure house students, but not have come through the CUP process. So I know a lot of y'all. I'm Shannon Mattingly. I'm with the Drenner group. And so just real quick, a little bit about the code and the process and whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I guess, the way the code is written is it says that when you're going through a preferred scenario process, you have to hold a neighborhood meeting on site. This site, there's not a lot of opportunities for other places to hold the meeting other than in the vacant area. And so, we talked about looking at some other options around here, but there's just not any open to the public where you can rent spaces to. Oh, and there's water. You guys, I'm sorry.
It's good to see you, that's bullshit. You don't like me and we both know that. Can we just pretend we're grown-ups
So
for
your
a
role
minute?
is to what?
So I am here to get a tally of everyone that comes to the meeting.
Okay, so they have you here taking a tally, but they didn't have you guys putting a sign out to tell the public where to go
Not until 17 days before, just to
for
again,
this meeting.
Not for this meeting. no.
Okay, so I just find it interesting you guys are tallying the participation, who shows up, but there was no outreach and there's no signage.
That rule doesn't fall onto the city.
Okay, so how come he's not taking his own attendance then?
Let's move over.
What does it mean? You've been talking.
Yeah, like, we're busy people. We're taking time out of our day for you.
Then that brings us to question and answer session with the press and public. Do we have anybody signed up? No?
We do. I just want to check. I know LMC signed up, but I want to make sure
There
we
she
don't have
is.
anyone else, and I've lost my paper, so give me just a second. Yes,
That's
our
all
only
right.
Q&A is Lisa Marie Capoletta.
Let me change my background real quick. Yeah, I got a question for city staff or the developer. I'm confused. There's a neighborhood meeting. I haven't heard anything about it. I'm very engaged in my community. When was this posted? What sort of notification went out? What's been the PR?
The notification requirement for the neighborhood presentation meeting is the web notice or the application notice, and you sign up for it on our website. You can get it via email or text.
Okay.
So anybody who is on and I've done open records, and the commissioners and the public watching this meeting may be interested to know how very few people are actually on that early notification alert. The most of them are city staff, and I'll be sure to follow up open record. So am I to understand there's been no door-to-door from the developer or any hard copies, Amanda? Or developer guy who's there, whoever can answer my question?
I don't know that it's appropriate for the developer to answer your questions. I believe they're to be directed at the commission and/or staff. But I don't know what the developer has done. Maybe that could be a question they could answer at the public hearing or as part of their presentation on Thursday.
So he's not communicating with you, his outreach? That would be something, if I was a developer, I'd be super proud of. I'd be like, yo, I was going door to door like I did to get that data on the percentage, that I talked about in my meeting that Matt talked about. So am I to understand, Amanda, there's been no communication of the outreach from the developer with city staff on his outreach?
No.
Okay, very good. And so the only way that a public can find out about this meeting is if they're on the early notification system. Is that correct? And they sign up? Because I missed that part. I read it, my jaw dropped. I thought, God, he's got some cojones to put that thing up. So is that the only way we find out about it, Amanda, is to sign up on that?
It's signing up for planning application notices or planning and development services news flashes, which is a little bit different from the early warning that you mentioned. I think we have over 1,000 on there. Last time I checked, I'm not sure, but I'm happy to get that for you, that information, if you were to submit that open records request.
No, my question is, yeah, I've seen the data, and I've filed multiple of those open records, and most of them are city staff. And 1,000, boy, it must be a different new one. My question is the only way that someone will find out about this North Street meet and greet with the developer is by that notification? That's it? Is that the only way?
Yes, from city staff. Word of mouth,
Okay.
we presented it this evening, but the code requires the web notice, application notice.
Well, I know, but we've had other developers who've actually gone door to door. So in that they're okay. So you're going strictly by the code. Well, of course, Shannon Mattingly would know what the code says. Okay, y'all, thank you for your time, and God bless San Marcos.
Hannah, you had your chance and you blew it. So don't come round here acting stupid. Don't come round here acting foolish. Don't come round here acting all innocent. I know about the games you play.
It's hot and there's water. Y'all help yourself if you would like it. But so that's the first step in the process. So this project covers multiple lots. There's 4 pieces to the project. So there's the preferred scenario amendment, which is where we are now. And basically that's an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Some of y'all know that, but it's the comprehensive plan is kind of in a weird place right now as far as us trying to figure out where we fit in.
But as part of this project, we went door to door for 10 different locations, 90% of which were within a mile of where item 9 is located. And we found that there was 1.3% vacancy rate. So we think that there's a demand. We think it's a reasonable land use. And if you look at the adjacent properties and how the recent changes to Vision SMTX that you passed on August 22nd, you'll see that this seems to be a great location as far as transition goes.
Comprehensive plan is kind of in a weird place right now as far as us trying to figure out where we fit in.
The recent changes to Vision SMTX that you passed on August 22nd, you'll see that this seems to be a great location as far as transition goes.
Here that are actually already correctly identified in the comprehensive plan. These properties are not. And so in the existing plan,
When you say comprehensive plan, do you mean neighborhood plan?
no. I
Okay.
mean, the comprehensive plan, what was the first name
well,
of it?
the whole-
It's now the one they're going through draft on. but
Is there
originally
a
it was the
neighborhood
Riverhouse
plan?
Ruins,
Is there a
wasn't it?
neighborhood plan for these historic houses? Is this part of the heritage
I
area?
do not believe it is part of a current neighborhood plan.
Okay, so it's not part of
And
a current
it's
neighborhood
outside of
plan.
the downtown.
So
plan
it
as
doesn't
well.
have a neighborhood plan? There's no neighborhood plan? Who made that decision?
Before me.
You passed on August 22nd. You'll see that this seems to be a great location as far as transition goes.
Comprehensive plan has kind of been a weird place right now as far as us trying to figure out where we fit in.
It's already there and established. They've been living with it for 30 years.
So there is no buffer then, in other words.
There is a buffer. That is the buffer. It goes from
Multifamily's the buffer?
from less dense to a little bit more dense to
Okay,
more
so
dense.
what is the buffer? Is there a buffer?
It's the buffer that's currently there is the buffer.
Which is multifamily, right?
Which is,
So there's no buffer. It's
Well,
multifamily.
Comprehensive plan has kind of been a weird place right now as far as us trying to figure out where we fit in.
Hannah, you had your chance and you blew it. So don't come round here acting stupid. Don't come round here acting foolish.
Can I ask you guys about the neighbors, how you are navigating 700, you said 700 rooms, is that right? 700 people, you're going to be renting to 700 people? 900? So how in your mind do you feel that's reasonable or ethical with all these other families living around here? All that extra traffic and then the construction, is that something that is in your decision-making calculus as ethical for our community?
Absolutely. And that is why we left the longer, narrower lot there. I know you don't consider it a buffer. It goes from less dense to more dense to more dense, and that's the buffer. And we pulled that out of our project so we wouldn't be right up against single-family homes. Is it going to add traffic? It is. San Marcos is going to grow regardless. The school is going to grow. This lot is going to get developed if I do it, or Texas State decides to dump theirs on it. It's going to happen. It's not going to. The highest and best use for this
Not on our watch. It's not going to happen on our watch.
They can do whatever they want. Because if they
Texas
purchase
State
it, they don't.
Yeah,
have to
those
permit
scare
it.
tactics don't work for the
No, I
neighbors,
know.
Shannon.
No.
That's the oldest ploy.
I know.
It's such a fallacy. Every time you guys do that, the neighbors just laugh, and it's just boggling why, if you truly cared about the neighbors, you would put it here. Like the fact that in your mind that's a buffer when it's already encroachment on those neighbors is just
Now
mind-boggling.
remember, it's also how the comprehensive plan has identified it. The comprehensive plan has kind of been a weird place right now as far as us trying to figure out where we fit in.
We own the view. We built the view on the square. There were parking issues down there. It's parked at 0.68. It was a little bit underparked, I think. They still have some parking spaces this year. Last year was a little bit underparked. But if they would have had that 0.75 or so, they'd have plenty of parking space.
But I guess my point is several that are parked at 0.75 have 0 parking spaces available.
Can I speak on from as a student who lives in student housing right now? I know maybe 2 people in the entire 4.5 years I've been at college that didn't bring a car. Because yes, the walkability distance is 93. We honestly don't care that much because we have to go other places too. We bring our cars because we want to go to the outlets, to other parts of town, to go see our family, all these other things. We bring our cars. I've known very few students who don't bring their cars. Right now you're sitting at having 200 of the students not bringing cars to campus, so not to go home to their family, to go anywhere out in the city. 200 out of 700 aren't going to bring a car. And you're taking rid of the public parking that's currently in place that people are utilizing. So we're getting rid of this parking, adding possibly a parking permit, of course, so only people in the apartment can use, in which there won't be enough, because I guarantee you there's not going to be 200 students that decide not to bring their cars because you have a walkability distance of score of 93. Students bring their cars.
Well, I can tell you, these guys, you can talk to them. They park theirs 1-to-1. They have over 230 spots they've never used. They built them, no one's ever used them. They're going to speak at council. He's going to tell you that no one's ever used them.
Is it a lot for the apartment complex, or is it a public lot?
Here.
for whoever.
Oh, it's
sanctuary laws.
It's their lot for their students.
For students.
Vacancies play into this. I'm confused. Your number is 0.68, 0.7. I mean, if somebody has a lot of vacancies,
There's
they
a
have
right
like
number. I mean, I can tell you my daughter's in college. She's not in college. Right?
No, that's not
I get it. What you're saying. So the ratio goes, like you're saying 0.7 or 0.8. It's per bedroom, right? So for every bedroom, we would take, if there's 900, we take it times 0.8, and that would be the number of parking spaces we built. And that's
no,
how.
I hear that, but you said all your studies showed that from I-35 to here is 0.68.
Is around 0.6.
But how does vacancies fall into that? Because if you don't have a thing rented out, then you don't fully utilize your parking. So was that calculated?
The vacancy rate from I-35 this way is almost zero. It's maybe 1%, 2% at the most.
1.6%.
Where did y'all get that number? We have been trying to get that for 10 years.
That's the one that we paid
I'll
Charles
share
Hudson.
that with you.
The city has it. I think it was probably provided in the planning commission packets. But I think it's in the planning commission packets.
Yeah.
What about renting 2 to a bedroom and then all your numbers fly out the window literally?
Is double occupancy an option for students in these leases? Because that will change a lot too in terms of parking.
We haven't considered that, no. Just the students, you know, we build what students demand, honestly. And what they demand from us, what we found, and we built at a bunch of colleges, is the mom and dads they want it close to campus. They want a gated parking garage where it goes down so the kids are safe. They want their kids to have their own bathroom, their own bedroom, and that's what they pay for. We build what they.
Well, the students are living in them also. As much as I do appreciate my mom and my dad and their feedback on my things, the students are living in it, and I've lived in multiple apartment complexes where I had to drive around for 5 minutes trying to find parking, waiting until somebody comes out so that I can pull in.
Yeah, you go try and visit somebody, you can't park.
Oh yeah,
I mean, oh my God.
Are they going to be room parking as
Are
we providing for all their friends as well?
Well, no,
I'll ask that.
Yeah, I will too.
in reality,
And for that parent that comes to visit every weekend, I mean,
we want a community too, so we want to have friends over, and that parking. And do you want them all lining the street, or is that going to inhibit your traffic around the area? Are you going to tell them, well, we can't park here now, or whatever? So,
well, I think
what about other people?
What's clear is they're asking, would you be willing to provide more parking? That's what this conversation is going to.
Absolutely, and I'm not saying absolutely on his behalf that he'd be willing to.
That's the question.
I'm just saying that I mean, it's still something that we're kind of working at and looking at and trying to figure out what that magical number is. And I don't know that there is a magical number necessarily.
Right.
We're going off of the information that was provided by the consultant who went to each complex and said, how many beds do you have? How many beds do you have leased? How many parking spaces do you have leased? And and just kind of pulled the ratio together. I don't know, Jim, do you remember if it was in your?
Yeah, it was in our packet,
Okay.
but I
So
think
it should be online.
two
as
of
well.
them were overparked, but all the rest were full.
Yeah.
And in other words, all their beds were full, but their parking lot was full as well. So it's not real clear. The number of parking spaces was less than the number of beds. So that would imply, since the parking lot's full, that there's not enough parking.
And so most
That's a conclusion.
Well, and you know what? I'm just confused because if you make a lasagna and it's a bad recipe, why would you continue to repeat the bad recipe for the lasagna? And we all here know that 0.7 is a bad recipe for parking. So if you want to be a good neighbor and you truly care about students, why would you not create a gourmet lasagna in your development and not use substandard 7-Eleven ingredients, which to me is what you're doing when you're insinuating that 0.7 is a reasonable.
That's kind of what we just said. We've submitted it at 0.75. And,
no, because Tom is
0.78.
Because he's saying no, but you're mixing the burdens, right? Because you're talking. So I don't think that's.
So for instance, that like
I don't understand that.
I think what Jim was saying is like, for instance, the Aspire. the report that we have shows that they have total number of beds and beds leased are the same. So they have every single bed leased in their complex. They have 514 spaces. They have 514 spaces leased, and they're parked at 0.68. And so what you're saying is, you know, some of them are parked. They're completely parked, right? And they're completely parked in most situations because they're 0.68, 0.69. I think in this area, in the 1 mile area from this lot, there's three that are 0.77, parked at 0.77 ratio, and then there's there's two at 0.67, one at 0.61, one at 0.66, one at 0.68, two at 0.68, and one at 0.69. So none of them are actually parked. But then you have like Sanctuary Lofts that has 548 spaces total, but only 314 that are leased. So they have almost 200 spaces that aren't leased. They have 481 beds total and 460 leased. So they're about 21 short of being leased, but they have. So, you know, it's trying to find that magical number, because you don't want to over park it and just have so much parking that, you know, you could be doing something else with it and maybe, you know, doing a different thing.
But that's specific to them. That doesn't mean that that's going to happen with your project, because you may have every single bed that you rent, every single person you bring a car.
Potentially. You know, we're just trying to look at what the trend has been in this area. So out of the 10 apartment complexes in the downtown that are close to the university, that's what has been shown. So
and they're charging for the parking space.
They are probably
people don't want to pay for that parking
And I
space.
can tell you that it usually becomes, in a location like this, it usually becomes a trade-off. It's a lot of time. These units have to be expensive. The dirt's crazy expensive here. So it's usually mom and dad will to the east side and show the kids the old stuff on the east side and say, you know what, you can have your car or you can live right here. It's more expensive, but you're not going to be able to bring your car. You can walk 2 blocks to HEB, you can walk 3 blocks to the party area on the square. You can literally take 10 steps and be at one of the major schools
Target,
on campus.
HEB.
So it's we just go off ratios.
If you include the parking in the lease of the property, then they would probably use the parking space.
Potentially. I mean,
These were built pre-code, right? Right, pre the new LDC. Is that correct? Under lower standards for parking. In other words, the random sample that you guys are collecting were all pre the new LDC.
I don't believe anything has been built post LDC.
Okay, so these are
No
all
student
under
housing.
a lower threshold, right?
They all have parked less, but the majority of them are not completely parked. They're like parked 0.67, 0.7.
Okay, so we all
Instead of 0.10,
participated in the land development code, and we all had concerns about parking.
Sure.
We all participated. Allegedly, those concerns were alleviated, and you're using that as your control group to do your analysis of your data?
So what we're reviewing is what's happening and whether they
That's
are
not my
fully-
question,
I
Shannon.
understand, but
You
what
guys are
Yes,
using
ma'am.
faulty data. You're using pre-code data requirements, and you're trying to say that's the exemplar control group.
I think what we're trying to say is that the majority of those lots are parked way less than what we're proposing to park, and they're not fully leased and fully parked. And so what we're saying is that, yes, we have a code that I don't know, and don't quote me on that because I'm not positive, but I can't think of anything that's been built after the code has been adopted. I don't know that we've had any CUPs for student housing. That we've had some that have been built that I'm sure house students, but not have come through the CUP process. And so, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
if I can, I just want to shift the conversation for a minute.
Sure.
To talk about the number of beds and why you believe that this student housing is needed. I know that there is some discrepancy, like on your last page of this handout, you tell us the number of beds in all of these 10 apartment complexes, student complexes, and most of them are fully booked. And I know you said that you hired somebody to do that.
Correct.
I don't know if this is accurate, and I'm wondering if you're going off the idea that Texas State, the new president, does want to increase student enrollment,
Yep.
He wants to increase freshman enrollment to 10,000. We're currently like at 7,000 something. But in his effort to do that, I think what people miss is that the enrollment isn't just necessarily in San Marcos. It's online enrollment, it's Round Rock enrollment at the student health, at the health science center. So not everybody is going to need a housing place or a bed in San Marcos. So I'm wondering how you're getting to your rationalization that we need this many more beds.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I can tell you for an absolute fact that that you know we've got many calls from Texas State to buy this. If this gets bought by them, there'll be 3,500 dorm rooms on this property, and no doubt about it. They're desperate. I mean, one of my dearest friends, John Collins, represents Texas State as their real estate broker. He has gone out to. They're trying to buy